We have Mark Denham on with Outdoorsmans, and we're going to talk tripods and all kinds of stuff. What's going on, man?
Absolutely. Not much, Jordan. How are you?
Good.
It's been a while.
I know. I'm actually headed your direction here Saturday, I think. We're going to head down for like a week and try to do the over-the-counter mule deer situation.
That's always... It's always interesting. It's always fun. My dad's leaving next Tuesday, and he's going to be doing... they're probably going to end up chasing coos deer like they always do.
Yeah.
But, OTC, you always have the option of saying, oh, yeah, I just didn't see any of these. I was hunting coos deer. I didn't see any coos deer. And you're like, nah, you were hunting mule deer and you just couldn't get it done. But no, it's a fun time in Arizona, OTC. Things get interesting.
Everybody that I guess doesn't know or has been living under a rock, can you just give like a little 10,000 foot view on Outdoorsmans?
Absolutely. So Outdoorsmans is a backpacks, optics, and tripod company. Those are our three main staples. We always call ourselves the one-stop shop for the gear for the Western hunter. Yeah. We have been in business since 1982, and we have been producing the products that everybody is familiar with, our tripods and backpacks, for about 23, 24 years now, starting in about 1999. We have always been focused on high-end, extremely niche products for the Western hunter. Mm-hmm. And when you imagine Western hunting big mountains and glassing really far and being super light, that's where we're trying to, be the masters of those products. So tripods are going to be probably the one thing we're most known for. Mm-hmm. And then all of their accompanying components, binocular adapters and, any type of adapters for cameras and rifles and all those types of things. So
yeah,
we are the gear for the Western hunter.
Yeah, you guys undoubtedly, in my opinion, make the greatest window mount system known to man.
Thank you. That's a pain point for a lot of people. I like that you bring that up because it's an interesting system because it is one of the only things that we make that is proprietary technically and has to be used with our products. We normally stray very far away from that. We normally try to stay as universal as possible mm-hmm. because we don't want to force people to purchase things if they already got something that could work. We don't want to be like, no, you got to buy this part if you want to use that. The window mount is that one part, but we think it's for a very good reason because it minimizes the whole system by a ton when you can just have that one tiny little window mount and then slide our pan head right on. And the pan head is the one that it works the best with. I know you're a fan of the pan head.
I've got mine right here. So we'll have video on this thing too, but I like to set mine up with the little quick adapter that's on the tripod, and you slide the pan head off or whatever head you're using, and you see like the little dovetail deal, and then the window mount portion will have this side on it. So then you slide off your head from the tripod, slide it onto the window mount, and you're like golden. And how many times have you seen people with their spotting scopes in their laps with quarters in their hands, like trying to spin the old one off to put it onto their window mount, and then they lose their other one, and oh man.
It's plates, and things like that they're tough, because they can ruin things, either losing one or not having a plate on one thing can really, really ruin a hunt. And, it may not be the one thing that makes you unsuccessful, but it's going to be the one thing that really pisses you off, that you forgot a little plate that's $19, or $20 and you don't have it. So like that little dovetail system that you're seeing, that is the proprietary, we call it Outdoorsman style adapter or Outdoorsman's plates. That is proprietary to us. And we're definitely going to talk about it today, but we are slowly moving away from that proprietary attachment in our products that should be used with, tons of other products. The window mount has gone to a Gen 2 of the dual system, which is awesome. I think we are going to see some people use the Arca functionality of the window mount, but mostly we're expecting it to remain kind of an outdoorsman's only type of product, the window mount specifically. But everything else, we are moving very, very quickly in the direction of whole universality, or whatever you want to call it. But if you want to mount it on a tripod, we can mount it on a tripod. We can help you do that. No matter what it is, what type of product it is, we want you to be able to put it on top of one of our tripods. And I think that's a pretty simple concept that some other companies stray away from. Manfrotto is one that we have kind of a pain point with currently. But yeah, it's a everybody's moving to Arca. We aren't the type of people to sit back and say like, oh no, you have to use our system. Ours is better. You know, for whatever reason, we see the industry going this direction. We would much rather be a contributing part of the industry than, sit back and try to force people to use a product that isn't going to be compatible with their buddies' stuff and, with other stuff 10 years down the road. Arca's here to stay, and it's a great system. So that's really, really what we're going for right now.
Yeah. So yeah, just the Gen 2 of everything, like as a person that carries a camera all the time, as well as optics and all that, being able to put your camera with the Arca adapter that is always on like a Peak Designs clip on my backpack strap, and then go right into the head, and then all of the things that have my Outdoorsman's plate on them still work in the same head. Before, I like jimmy rigged an adapter, as many people did, and I lost multiple ones of those, and now I don't have to keep track of them anymore. It's all in the same thing.
It's a very, very simple change. I always like to say simple, not easy is a term I use constantly, because I downplay things like, oh yeah, that's simple. It is simple. It's the concept isn't crazy. It was a little difficult to get to get everything right. But, like on the notes you sent over, you asking like, who thought of that?
Yeah, who came up with it?
And that idea was all our manufacturing partner at Rim Country Manufacturing. We have an amazing partnership with those guys. They do all of our aluminum manufacturing for our tripod components and things like that. And they are very, very smart guys. So they approached us with the idea of that type of system. We had been talking about, when do we ever make this switch to Arca? Like, should we do this? And we've been talking about it for a while. And one day, I can't even remember how it got brought up, but he's like, I think we can just do both. And I was like, well, why? And he's like, well, I mean, we've got 20 years of customers that have our current parts, and we're hoping to have way more than 20 years of customers ahead of us that are going to use Arca. They've already got Arca, or, that's just the way the industry's going. And he's like, we kind of have to take care of both of those customers. And if we just say one day we're switching over everything to Arca and we never offer, another product ever again with the Outdoorsman style, that causes a kind of a crappy pain point for customers. I've dealt with it with companies before where I won't call them out, but I've dealt with companies before that I know the reason that they discontinued this certain product, but I have other products currently that need that thing that you just discontinued.
Right.
And so now instead of purchasing another $70 part, I have to replace every single part I've got already, and it's $450, instead of just, like the 70 for the one part. And I'm like, that's kind of crappy. That's a crappy feeling, because you had already invested that money into the company, and then they said like, oh, sorry, we thought of something better. You got to buy it all again. And we're like, God, that's kind of tough. And so we wanted to avoid that as much as possible. And as soon as he thought of this idea, we're like, let's draw that thing up. And it turned out great.
Yeah.
I was very, very happy. That is very, very close to revision 1 of that design. I mean, we did not change it very much from the original design, and it turned out just great. I mean, when we were using it during the prototype stages, I was like, I don't know how you could make this. I don't know why this feels so much better than that little wing nut.
Oh yeah.
But it's just so much quicker. Yeah, so we're very proud of that, and it's a simple, not easy thing. That everybody's like, it's not that big of a deal, and we're like, just use it once. Like if you've used our older products and you use this one, you'll see, like you'll have a little smile on your face for a second and be like, it's kind of cool. So no, they did an amazing job with that.
Yep, yeah, for sure. And then, yeah, like you're saying, the wing nut deal. I mean, every head pretty much has that, where you screw it on to some point. But your guys' is the new Gen 2 has a little lever, and when that lever is locked on, that's not falling out. Like you can walk with it over your shoulder and not feel like it's gonna fall. Your optic is gonna fall and break off, or break or whatever. And a lot of optic companies now with their new releases, and I think even revised old releases, they all have Arca already on the plate. It's not like you need to put another adapter on the plate. The plate is Arca already.
Yep. Yeah, I mean that's super convenient. We loved when they started doing that, and it's sometimes a product will come out and you're like, dang, I wish they would have put that on there, because it makes things a lot easier. And it's just another great thing is you forget that plate and you're not 100% screwed. If you can just, maybe it's like a big ATX 95 or 115, that's definitely not the balance point where that foot is. And so you're not going to have the best glassing experience, but it's better than nothing. You can at least attach it to a tripod. So, that's definitely nice. But the universal, it's an interesting system that we decided to go with. And instead of going with like a adjustable quick release or an adjustable quick detach system, we went with as universal as we could possibly make it. So those measurements on that thing and that cam is not adjustable. You cannot change the distance on those teeth like you could with like a Picatinny quick release adapter is pretty common, where you push in, twist it tighter and close it. We decided to go with they're called Belleville washers, and it's a constant pressure across the entire travel of the actual jaws. So no matter how oversized or undersized that plate is, it will provide the same amount of clamping pressure no matter what. If the part is super undersized or super oversized, that's where things get a little interesting. And unfortunately, with a lot of the mass manufacturing happening, we can run into that every once in a while. But 99% of things, it's going to clamp on there and it ain't going anywhere. It is locked in there. So
nice.
We really like that system.
Yeah. Head-wise, you did the Gen 2 to all the heads?
Yes. So right now, the way we had it planned internally was the three, we like to think of them as the three flagship heads, the pistol grip, micro pan head, and pan head. Those were all going to be released right around the same time. We tried to clump them up as close as possible, and it ended up being a couple months between the pan head release and the micro pan head and pistol grip. And then the fluid head is the only tripod head that we produce currently that has not got its Gen 2 makeover quite yet. That is planned. We're excited about it. We're really excited about it. It's an undertaking. That is a big head, and it took us a while to design that the first time, and these revisions are going to be larger than just the Gen 2 of the pan head and the pistol grip and micro. We are going to hopefully redesign that from almost the ground up to improve upon what it is currently, because I mean, we will be the first ones to admit, I hope we never make a perfect product, because that means we can't make any products anymore. And I know it's such a cliche to say, oh, you'll never be perfect, or it's never perfect. You got to keep improving on it. But it's true. And we know that our products aren't the end all be all of, the glassing industry. We constantly are working towards, that point, but there's always things to change. And our customers like us, and they're usually very, very nice about their criticisms and their opinions. Some aren't, but we still take every single thing that anybody has to say about our products to heart, and they all get thought about and they all get talked about. No matter how mean you are about it or nice you are about it, I might get a little frustrated if you're really mean about it, but there's going to be a meeting and we're going to talk about that criticism. We're going to say, like, a lot of the times customers have like kind of told me some stuff and I'm like, I never thought about it that way. Mm-hmm. And we've absolutely made revisions to products because of customer input, and we get a lot of it. And that's like the one thing I think I could say is like the best part of our customer base is how comfortable they seem giving us input on our products, and like real input. Because a lot of people, if they're spending the type of money that they spend on our stuff, they're probably pretty serious users, and we got some pretty serious users out there. I mean, absolutely, there's a lot of people out there that using these products way more than any of our staff is, and that's vital to what we do. So if anybody's out there with some opinions on Outdoorsman's products, info@outdoorsmans.com, fire away. We will answer you, I promise.
The podcast is brought to you in part by First Light Technical Clothing, keeping me dry and comfortable from the duck blind to the backcountry. Check out all of their offerings at firstlight.com. Sig Sauer, from the popular cross rifle, which I love, to everything optics, handguns, ammunition, and accessories, visit sigsauer.com for their full lineup. And Onyx Hunt Maps. I use Onyx Maps to plan and execute my own hunts, plus keep everything organized and accounted for at the outfit. I'm always scouting with the app. Check them out at onyxhunt.com. Oh, there's just such a give and take with everything. It's going to make some people happy. And, you know, it's always like I'm sure the price and material balance, which is a huge topic, especially with the legs, is like carbon fiber versus aluminum. Fire away.
It's massive. And we talked about this a while ago. Mm-hmm. Gosh, that was a while ago. But it's the difference in the actual, like, if you just look at the material itself, they are similar in a lot of ways. Like, if you do deflection tests and all that type of stuff on how they actually interact with, weight and loads and things like that, they're quite similar. And then you look at the cost and you're like, where the heck is that coming from? And it is purely just the availability and the quantity of the raw materials. Aluminum, pretty easy to get, pretty easy to find. It's mined all across the entire planet. Carbon, not so much. There's few raw manufacturers out there. You're importing pretty much everything as far as raw materials go, and then you gotta manufacture it. Mm-hmm. And the manufacturing process is very different than machining. Machining, I'm going to piss people off, but machining seems easy sometimes, compared to carbon stuff. And before we started this project, I mean, I didn't know left from right when it came to the ins and outs of carbon materials. And it took a long time it took about 2 years to really become comfortable with saying, like, okay, this is worth this price, and it has benefits over aluminum. And it's not better than aluminum, but it does have benefits that aluminum does not have. Mm-hmm. Because we will never say that carbon is better than aluminum is better than carbon. It can't be said. You can argue either way all day long, and we will, Robbie, all day long can argue about carbon and aluminum. But one is great for one thing and one is great for another. And it really just boils down to weight. And it's kind of unfortunate that it is that simple, but one is lighter than the other. And that is the And at the end of the day, that's the big difference. They do act slightly different in wind, with vibration, and other things, but it is purely the weight. And we just pay for that weight. Because if you want something that is just as strong but lighter, that's probably a material that you're going to end up paying for. Mm-hmm. I mean, you look at anything like that, titanium, other types of carbon materials, they are the stronger, lighter version of their counterpart. They're always more expensive.
Right.
And whether it's fair or not is, we can argue that too, but the increase in cost truly is reflected in our prices. And that's something we really try to get across to people is that aluminum tripod and that carbon tripod, they are priced pretty much identically as far as manufacturing costs go. Mm-hmm. And that people sometimes don't believe. And it's kind of frustrating. I promise we're not lying to you. It is just that much more expensive. And then, we do manufacture everything in the United States. And that, again, is unfortunate that it is, it does come with a premium, but it does. And we do it for reasons, we do it for a lot of reasons. Mm-hmm. We obviously love creating and sustaining jobs within this country, but we also do it because there's a lot of quality control aspects that we have our hands in that is either almost impossible to do overseas or very, very difficult. And if we're going to produce a product this niche, we kind of have to have that much oversight and that much involvement in that process because we're changing like tiny, tiny little things. And, we're doing things that the photo industry is not really known for and they would think is weird and they wouldn't really want to do. And photo is pretty much the only mass manufacturers out there. Mm-hmm. There's no hunting tripod mass manufacturers that you can order a tripod from. They're all just photo tripods. And so a lot of photo tripods make great tripods. We sell tons of them.
Yeah.
But there is a reason the cost is associated with our carbon products and our aluminum. Mm-hmm. But as far as difference goes, and with our specific products, our carbon Inegra and our aluminum, I talked earlier about we wanted to make a product that we truly did think had a benefit over our aluminum and not just the weight, because we knew we could make it lighter. We hit our goals on weight with the tall and the standard. The compact, we wanted just a tiny, tiny bit lighter, but we got it under 2 pounds, and that was the goal there. There was a bead of sweat running down my head the day we weighed the final prototype, and it was 1 pound, 15 7/8 ounces. I mean, we missed 2 pounds by 1/8 of an ounce, and I reweighed it like 5 times because I didn't believe that it got that close. And I was like, oh God. All right, I'll take it. Like we got it under 2 pounds. But the other thing is the Inegra, and that's something no one knows what it is. I didn't know what it was until we stumbled upon it, and it's a very cool addition. It's not something, honestly, hopefully, none of our customers ever see the benefits of Inegra, because what it does is it increases the tensile strength and just the overall strength of the legs. You're not going to notice it when you get the tripod in your hands. When you feel it, there's no difference in feel. There's no difference in vibration. There's no difference in anything except for the durability and the rigidity of the legs. So normal carbon is just a bunch of pieces laid in random directions depending on the type that you use, and then those random pieces are all woven together in a fabric with nothing but carbon filament. The Inegra does the same thing, but with a 60-40 blend, about a 60-40 blend of a polypropylene thread,
okay,
and carbon. And so the carbon is going to run in its unidirectional pattern, and then the polypropylene runs omnidirectional pattern, and then the polypropylene runs in a unidirectional pattern straight up and down the tube, the entire length of the tube. So there is no break from the top to the bottom. And so when a tube takes a catastrophic impact or something that squishes the tube completely, both sides touching, normal carbon completely splits. It shatters. I'm sure a lot of people out there have experienced that with tripods and
trekking
car
poles,
parts
breaking
and
them.
trekking poles. Yeah, exactly. I mean, carbon, when it fails, it's catastrophic. There's no saving it. It's not like aluminum. Whereas, if you take a dent, yeah, the pole might not go in all the way, but it's still holding a lot of its structural integrity.
Right.
That is something that Inegra will do. Those two sides can touch and basically shatter all of the carbon, and then that Inegra is enough to hold that leg together to at least limp you out of the field and to at least, last you the hunt. Again, you might not be able to fold the leg up completely. It may not be able to hold your rifle at that point, but I can almost guarantee you it's going to you're still going to be able to use it really well glassing. I mean, we've done it. We've shattered lots of broken tubes at the office, and it still holds a massive amount of weight for a tube that's completely shattered. And that was something that we were really excited to kind of discover, because we felt like it was something that we could offer, we could bring to the table and say like, hey, this is something a little different. And it actually it's not a huge price increase. That addition didn't change the price. So we didn't feel like we were forcing that upon the customer, saying like, hey, you have to use this brand new material, but we're going to charge you $400 extra for it or something like that. It ended up being within a very, very small percentage of just using carbon. And we're like, man, we can price this thing at about the same price we were going to and offer in my opinion, a cooler product than just pure carbon. Because just pure carbon, it's just reducing the weight, and we were like, yeah, it's cool. We make a 2-pound, 6-ounce tripod that you can stand behind. But, if we can offer something different, we will. So we were really excited about that. That was a really fun project. And our partners in that project were amazing. Our manufacturing partner in California for all of our carbon is awesome. They were vital in this entire process. Like I said, I knew nothing, and they probably hated me at some points, just asking all these little tiny questions about how it's made, how all this stuff's done and everything. And so it was a really fun project to work on, and it continues to be a fun project to work on, because I mean, I can't tell you when, but Gen 3's coming.
Yeah.
Gen 4's coming. It's going to happen, and we're always going to try to do stuff like that. Bring a little bit more functionality into the field with you, because we make tripods and they're pretty simple instruments. And so innovating in that space is
way difficult.
Is difficult. Yeah. And we love to see when people try and succeed or not. I mean, we've had some products that never even made it to market, that type of stuff. And we're like, you're 6 months in, you're like, this is kind of dumb. This doesn't really work that well, and you have to go back to the drawing board. But yeah, we love to see innovation in this industry, because it's hard to innovate. You got 3 legs that hold something.
Yeah.
How do you make it better every single day?
Yeah, I last year when the carbon Inegra came out, you're talking to me about the Inegra, and you said you guys put it in a vise and clamped it and let the vise go, and the Inegra popped it back up to your tube, so it's still a circle. Which is like,
it's
that's
hard to measure.
Yeah, a carbon fiber one would have broken in half.
Yeah, and they do. Yeah, they just snap, and it's just what carbon does. You can't fix that. You have to use another material, and luckily, the way carbon is manufactured, or carbon tubes, or fiber tubes are manufactured, they're just a bunch of layers slapped on top of each other. So we were like, well, can an undisclosed amount of those layers be this? And they're like, yeah, why not? We're like, oh, let's just do that. And we played with a bunch of different materials, And there was some cool stuff out there. We ended up with some really funny kind of prototype tubes that had some really interesting qualities to them. But we finally ended up on what we're using now, the carbon and Inegra. And we're very happy with it. Its strength to weight ratio is extremely impressive. Its ability, its deflection is amazing. I mean, it can withstand some serious weight before it actually starts to fail. And that was something we were pretty excited about, because we want our products to be as durable as possible. Mm-hmm. I mean, like, honestly, like it's kind of a no-brainer. You know, we try to make our products as bomb-proof as possible, and they end up being a little simple in their design sometimes, but that lends itself, in our opinion, to strength, because moving components are a detriment to pretty much anything. They will, I mean, you can take cars. I constantly am comparing everything to cars. And if you look at an engine bay from 1965 and you look at an engine bay from 2024, like rolling off the line, there's a few more wires and there's a few more moving parts in this new stuff. And so the things that can go wrong with this new stuff is massive compared to the stuff that could go wrong, you know, with the older stuff. And it's simply because they have less moving parts. And in reality, like, what are those new moving parts actually adding to your experience? And so if it's not truly changing the way that you use the product and the way that you interact with it and your user experience, we're not just going to add it for a sales pitch or for a bullet point on a spec sheet, because that's just a failure point. You know, and at the end of the day, our products need to be steady and durable. And those are the two main factors, you know, we really chase when we're designing products.
Yeah. I want to touch on the price one more time, because I was literally screaming at my computer on the forums when the carbon was released, because you and I talked, it was like 2016, wasn't it? Or 2017 was the first.
It might have been. It might have been 17. I don't think it was 16, but it might have been 17.
It was back. Yes, it was back there. And we talked about it, and the question that literally always comes up is carbon fiber versus aluminum. At the time, you guys only made aluminum tripods, so I kicked the question to you. And you basically, at the time, weren't really sold on carbon. You're like, we can make a carbon fiber tripod. I'm telling you right now, it's going to be it's going to be quite a bit of extra money for not that much weight savings. And people were like, do it. If they did it, I would buy one. And then the thing was like, oh, well, with how much extra it costs, and then there's only this many ounces of weight savings, I'll just keep the one I have. And I was literally like, he told you. He literally told you.
And it's, you know, because like, it's hard sometimes. We have to detach ourselves, because, I mean, let's be honest. I am not Outdoorsman's consumer.
Right.
I haven't bought an Outdoorsman's tripod, you know, in a while, I'll be honest. And so, like, really taking a step back and looking at that price, because price is a huge deal in retail. I mean, we commiserate over the prices of our products, because we know that's like the main interaction you have with a customer if you're not speaking to them face to face. Like, as soon as they see that price, they are going to put a value on your product, and they're going to look at that price and say, like, a high or low, you know, or just right. No one ever seems to think it's just right, but, you know, they're going to say, that's a great deal, or holy crap, why would anybody buy that? And I think that goes back to the point of just trying to not make it just lighter. You know, not just trying to make it lighter, but trying to add a little value. And, you know, we are a little bit more modular with this design too. It is a little bit easier to work with if a customer ever needs to replace parts, or if parts ever break or we need to repair them. It is a little bit easier to work with. And that was a big deal for us too. we wanted the service aspect of these tripods to be an enjoyable experience. Our old tripods, a lot of the times, pretty much every single problem they would have would need to be repaired by us or looked at by us. And we wanted to kind of reduce that as much as we could. And that's something that's really hard to show somebody on a product page of a website. You know, the fact that, yes, we are more expensive than other people's tripods, but you purchase this, we promise it's an amazing product, and then we promise we are amazing too, or we're going to try to be as amazing as we can with every single interaction you have with us, whether it be extremely positive or, you know, we have negative interactions sometimes. I mean, you know, stuff can break. It happens, but we want those, when that happens, we want to be there for you. We understand. We know exactly what it feels like for something to break in the field, or an accident happens, you know, and it's like, man, I got to get this fixed now. How long is that going to take? You know, or how much is this going to cost me? Like, oh God, we don't want people to feel that way. We want them to be like, oh crap, I broke my tripod. And then they get off the phone with us and they're like, wow, that was awesome. You know, like we'll have it done in a couple of weeks, and, you know, it's going to be a very fair repair price, or, you know, something like that. So yeah, there's price there, there's value there. And, you know, we had fun during the launch of that tripod. We had a lot of fun during the launch of the tripod, listening to people and talking to people. Yeah. And, we launched it at a show. We launched it at Reno Sheep Show in last year.
January, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it is last year now. I got to catch myself. I was like, oh, it is the 4th. But it was really fun we launched it the first day of that show, and I couldn't have been happier with the conversations I was having with people. And then I'm completely detached from the office. I hadn't checked my email all day. I'm not even looking at Slack and anything. And I realize I'm standing around a bunch of very serious sheep hunters and Western hunters, and these are our like,
they want the best that they can buy because they need to rely on it. And
the internet was a completely separate, you know, conversation happening. And I remember, like, we started talking about it later in the day, and I started reading comments, and I was like, wow, there are some very, very upset people. And, you know, we can laugh about it all day long, but at the end of the day, those customers have points too.
Right.
You know, they have a point. That is a very expensive tripod, and we never want to be inaccessible to people. We always want to be as accessible as possible. Obviously, we want our products in people's hands, but there are certain things that we aren't willing to skimp on to make a product accessible. And that's a very, very hard thing to balance. And we've had a lot, you know, we will continue to have these conversations forever, about that. But price is a very big thing we're aware of. And I promise we're listening. You know, we absolutely take into account everything that people say. People say that's insane. I'll never pay that. And we say, all right, we promise we are going to try to make something that you will pay for. So we will get you, you know, because we're going to make good products, and we promise we're going to get you on something one day. You're going to be like, oh shoot, they got us. You know, that looks good. That's priced right. So yeah, it's a fun one.
Yeah. So you guys have your tripods, and you have your own tripod heads that you guys build. But on the website, you also carry some other stuff, some other brands of tripod legs and things. Why do you guys do that?
Again, that exact point I just talked about, accessibility. It would feel horrible if a brand new hunter walked into our office or called us up on the phone and said, like, hey, I want to spend, I know I need a tripod. I know I need a tripod head, but, you know, like, your products are out of my reach. That's completely understandable. We aren't the beginner product. We don't make that currently. And so these are our offerings. Sure is an amazing product. We absolutely love those tripods. They are a great deal for their pricing. Their pricing is insane sometimes, and we acknowledge that. It's mind-blowing what they can produce for that amount of money. It's inaccessible, or it's impossible for us to do that, and so why not? They're a great company. They work really well with us, and they make a really good product. So you'll notice we carry very specific third-party tripods and tripod accessories, like the VH10 and the VA5 are the only two Sure heads that we carry for a very specific reason. They're the only ones we really recommend for our style of hunting. And then same goes with Manfrotto. Like right now, really the only Manfrotto head we're carrying is the X-Pro Fluid head, because it's pretty much the only one from Manfrotto that we would say, yeah, you should throw if you're using a big 95 or some Koas, or even some larger binoculars, maybe that'd be a great head for you. And then Slick is the answer to, I got $120, I need a tripod. Like, I got the one for you.
Yeah.
And they make a very good product. It's extremely simple. They're quite featureless in their design, but again, the price absolutely reflects that, and it's a very, very attractive price. So that's basically the answer. I mean, we carry products that we truly can recommend. We've all used them in the field. I would be perfectly happy if, you were like, you got to take a Slick 634 on this hunt. I'd be like, all right, that's not a huge deal. That's a very capable tripod. And yes, I'm not going to have some of the creature comforts or some of the things that I would have on a more expensive tripod. And it may not be as stable, but it's going to hold my binoculars. And at the end of the day, a tripod is better than no tripod. And if we need to bring in third-party, companies to provide an option for everybody on the spectrum of price and quality, then that's what we do. If one day we offer something for everybody, maybe we don't, but I can promise you we probably never will, because they don't offer something for everybody. There's no single company that does, and that's the beauty of it. I mean, there's a lot of great products that those companies make. So
I recommend that Slick 634 a lot to people. I'm like,
absolutely.
I am really stern on my pan head. Like, I will recommend that thing 1,000 times over, but especially if you're just trying to get into a system, like, I think spend your money on the head, go with a little cheaper set of legs, at least to start with. And that's going to be a really good system to get you started.
Absolutely. The top down is what I always say. Like, hey, what should I start with? Start from the top down. Whatever you're about to connect to the top of that tripod, that's what you start with. We aren't even the first stop. We sell the products that you're going to attach to the top, but our company, Outdoorsmans, isn't the first thing that you should purchase. It should absolutely be your glass. That should be where your money lies. I will die on that pedestal. It will pay for itself in the long run. More than any other product out there is if you take a little bit and you take a little bit out of your other budget and throw it into your optics, you will absolutely see a better return on your investment than spending. I mean, shoot, I'll even give our products. Like, if you're going to say, I'm going to buy a carbon tripod, an Outdoorsman's carbon tripod, but I'm going to take $800 off my, optics budget. We're like, no, don't do that. Don't do that. Like, get the base started first with good optics. So good optics, a good binocular adapter, good tripod heads, and then a good set of legs. It's very simple. Top down, if you're looking at a tripod, those are what you buy in that order, and you will be happier. You will spend less money in the long run, and you will have a system at the end of it that is very, very thought through, and it kind of gives you time to find out what you like and what you don't like about, the other products too. If you purchase some great pair of binoculars, and then you shouldn't buy any other binocular adapter besides ours. There's no question about that. And then if you buy let's say like a Manfrotto pistol grip, that big old pistol grip that I think they still actually make it. We haven't ordered one in a very long time because it's not a great tripod head, but let's say you get that and some Manfrotto like 290 legs, 290 aluminum legs. Go hunt with that, and you're probably not going to like the head very much, but you're going to learn like what you don't like about the head and what you're looking for in one. Because especially if it's your first one ever, you don't really know what you like yet. I don't like pistol grips very much. We make an amazing one, but I have never used it. I mean, I used it when I was a kid, but that's about it. I love pan heads, and that's just what I like to use. But if I've never used one before, I don't know that. I don't know what I like and what I don't. So instead of buying, our fluid head at $780 and then realizing I really don't like pan heads, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, shoot, that sucks. This is a great product, but it's not really what it's not really what I was looking for. If you take your time and invest in those things separately, I think you'll have a better understanding. I think people would have a better understanding of what they like out of a product or in a product or what they want to get out of a product, and they would end up making less purchases.
Yeah, well, I really like mine. I have the standard height, and I just run the regular pan head on it, and I had my rifle on it the other day and posted a picture, and there was a bunch of people who were like, what is that thing? Like, it's just...
what kind of rifle attachment are you using that for
Arca.
that setup? Yeah?
Yeah, it's an Arca. I don't remember who makes it. It's one of those that it tapers. It goes from a regular pick rail, and then it goes out to an Arca rail, so it's all one piece.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Is it Salmon River Solutions by any chance?
I don't think so. I mean,
they're
it
the
might
ones
be.
that manufactured those parts. They're another great partner of ours that manufactures some really cool, all of our rifle accessories and things like that. And they make some parts like that. But that's another great point of shooting off these tripods.
Yeah.
You're shooting off tripods obviously right now. When did you start kind of hunting off of a tripod?
I feel like, man, it wasn't that long ago, and I still kind of have to make myself do it. And here's something too, it's kind of funny. I've been, especially like filming and stuff, and I've hunted with a lot of people that they have like their glassing tripod, and then they have another big tripod that they shoot off of, and they carry both of them, and that's just like ridiculous to me.
It's a little ridiculous.
Yeah.
I have hunted with people like that, and it's a lot. I get it.
Yeah.
Because there are definitely situations where it would be really nice, but it's a lot. That's because if your shooting tripod is heavier than your glassing tripod, it's probably around 5 or 6 pounds. Girl, that's a lot of weight.
At least in bulk wise. I mean, they're usually pretty big. Like they like those with pretty big diameters, so they seem to be more stable with a rifle, I guess. So at first I was always kind of like, man, I'm just not going to carry both. But honestly, just being able to like have an Arca with me all the time, and with that head, now I use it more than I ever really would. So like now for coyote hunting and stuff like that, and I've gotten into a couple situations where it was really nice to have hunting. But I'm still pretty new to it for actual hunting scenarios.
It definitely, I don't know why it kind of took me a while to get into it. I mean, like, products like the Triclops and the Hog Saddle and things like that have been around for a decent amount of time. And I don't know. I never really got into it. I was very into prone shooting and backpack supported and things like that. And I ended up, it was 2022, I think it was a couple years ago, a couple seasons ago, that I ended up in a situation where I was basically forced to. We had just started manufacturing those those plates for our rifles. And but right before we left for the hunt, I slapped one on the rifle, and I was like, if I'm in a situation where this is, it feels good because I'd never done it before. I didn't want to be messing around with things on a hunt. And I was like, if I get into a situation that this works, I'm going to try it. And I actually ended up almost being forced to do it. And I remember like standing up after I made the shot. I was like, what? Where has this been all my life? Like, this was, holy crap. I mean, it was the most stable I've ever felt taking a shot at an animal. And, it wasn't a crazy long shot. I don't like to shoot very far, but holy crap. I mean, and that was on an old Gen 1 system where you still had to slide it in and lock it down with the wing nut. With Gen 2 now, with that flip lever and being able to rock it in the side on an Arca mount, holy crap. I mean, I shot a deer. Nate's going to get mad at me. I'm going to spoil an episode here really quick. If Nate watches this, I'm sorry, but still watch the episode. We were in Kodiak, Alaska a couple weeks ago. And I mean, from the time that we saw the deer that I shot and shooting the deer was less than a minute. And I had time my tripod was in my pack on back, rifle over shoulder. From the time I saw that deer and had my tripod out of my pack and rifle attached, and I was sitting down on the deer was less than a minute. And that's like, that's quick. That's quick to be able to be in a sitting position, completely locked into a tripod that is, 24 inches off the ground is pretty crazy. And again, it just felt like so solid to actually do. And I was like, I'm never not doing this ever again. I mean, it makes the experience better, I think.
Or at least having the option. That's one of the big things that I like the most about it that I wish I just would have done sooner is even when I was putting together my own adapters for Arca, like I just wish I would have at least had the plate on my rifle, that I would at least have the option. Because like when you need it, you really need it. Otherwise, for me, I feel like I can find prone for the most part. Like hunting Idaho in the high country, you can just find prone easier. But like Kodiak, like you were saying, that's prime country for tripods. Yeah,
it's almost impossible. I mean, when we first touched land in that place, and I was like, how do you kill anything around here? Like the ground moves this much every time you take a step. There's no way I can get prone here. All the reeds are, way too high to even sit behind. And I was like, unless I'm on one of these two hills, that we're looking at, how do you kill something? And how do you kill something without a tripod? I mean, luckily, I had that option. And now it's like, I will not leave for a hunt without that option. I mean, like you said, at least having the option to do that. And that goes for, every piece of equipment I have that can possibly be attached to a tripod. I mean, my 832s have a tripod stud on, or have a binocular stud on them. Have I ever used it? Probably not. I've probably never put those on a tripod before, but I've got the option to do it. And it's a $20 stud, or it's a little install. That's the cheap part. Just the option to have something attached to a tripod is actually the cheap part of this whole operation. So you might as well just make sure that everything you've got is got a stud in it, or got a plate on it, or is available to attach to a tripod. So that's another huge piece of advice I try to get people to do. They're like, yeah, I got a couple pairs of binoculars. I only need a stud for one though. And I'm like, why? Like what? You got a pair of 10s and 15s, and they're like, I never use the 10s on a tripod. I'm like, well, I don't know. You drop your 15s off a cliff, and
which happens.
You're on a once in a lifetime moose hunt. Like, wouldn't you like to have the ability to put those on for an extra $21.99, type of thing? And they're like, okay, yeah, but some people are like, nah. I'm like, God, no, that's wrong. Don't do that.
Yeah. I get it, trying to save some cash, but being somebody that has had the whatever happened, then I'm just like, oh my God, I didn't do that. Like, I didn't put this on here, or because I wanted to save a little bit, and I'm just like, I would pay triple for that at this moment, and I don't even, I can't get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And those are like the studs and the adapters, huge product for us. Obviously, it's our, I mean, you could consider it our flagship, besides the tripods. And we will always attempt to make that one of our most accessible products as far as price goes. Obviously, prices are going to increase as time goes on. We can't avoid it. I wish we could, but we have lots of conversations about this one. Where does that get priced? And we always look at our competitors, but we're always looking at just our customer feedback and how they feel about the price of that product, because we want people to have that product. No matter what, we want you to have our binocular adapter system, because we truly do believe it's the best out there. And it was the best out there. It was the only one out there for quite a while. And there's been some familiar looking things
look
popping
very,
up.
Very much the same, huh?
Very much the same. That's another podcast, I think. But yeah, we always try to make that our most accessible product. And because of that fact right there, we always want people to have those with them, have extras, have, 2 different colors now, because if you drop one in the field, you can find it. When we first started making the colors, yes, it's there. It was a very small change that we made, or a small thing that we offered, but so many people, every single person that's ever lost a binocular adapter in the dark called us and was like, I will take one. Yeah. That's a simple fix to a problem that I've got, and it was, at first it was kind of just fun. And then we were like, oh no, this does add a ton of functionality to these things. But yeah, I mean, you lose them, you give them to a buddy, that type of stuff. And so you should always have those core products, I think, with you. If you purchase one thing from us, from this podcast, please make it the binocular adapter.
100%.
Because we know that those customers are probably going to come back. We love that product. We have 100% faith in the product. We know you're going to love it. And we hope when you do, you come back and purchase some other stuff.
Yep. Yeah, and a couple other things you guys have that I think maybe folks don't know about or overlooked. I guess one big thing is your adapter plate that you can slide, so you can change the balance point of big optics, like like a 95, or if you have a BTX or something like that, you can actually change that. So if anybody has maybe they don't have a great tripod head and even their 80 millimeter spotter is too much on the front, you can get a plate from you guys that you can slide that center back.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Balancing optics is a thing that does not get talked about enough. We try to talk about it as much as possible with customers. It's extremely important, and it will make you enjoy glassing more, and it will increase the efficiency of your products that you're using and your glassing. Whoops. I mean, it's easy science. You've got leverage that if your head is here and your center of gravity is out here, it's constantly going to be pulling down on your head. That means you need to increase tension on the tilt function of the head just to keep it straight. That increased tension is going to make it harder to tilt and move and enjoy the product. If you slide that center of gravity to the top of our pan head is, pretty much not the only, but the best example. If you slide that center of gravity to right in the middle of that, it feels like a different product. Yep. It absolutely does. We've had a couple people with, more than a couple, but we've had people with big optics using it on our pan head, which not really designed to be handling, 6 pound, 7 pound spotting scopes, especially when they're imbalanced or they're not balanced. And, they're like, man, it's a great product. It's really well made, but the feel just isn't there. And all of a sudden you throw a, $20 plate on there and scoot it forward 3 inches. And they're like, holy crap. Like, this changes everything. And you're like, yeah, no, it can. It changes it a ton. So that's a great point. That's something that everybody should be doing. There's very, very few spotting scopes. Spotting scopes really is the only thing that really matters. Binoculars slightly, but not really. 15s are like the only thing I would suggest maybe balancing, if you're super picky, in my opinion. But spotting scopes, super important. And very rarely do you have a manufacturer that says, "Oh, let's put the mounting plate right in the center of gravity." Yeah. I don't know why it's probably some technical thing that one of our reps is gonna text me about when they watch this and say like, it's because of this. But I don't know what it is right now. But I really wish they would do that on everything, modular systems aside and all that stuff. But that is important. Mm-hmm. And again, very rarely is that happening just by accident. If you just attach a small plate to the bottom of a spotting scope and throw it on a tripod head, very rarely is it going to be balanced. And even with high fluid tension heads like video heads from like Sue-Ray and the VA5 and the VH10 and the Manfrotto heads, even those, it will make those feel better. You will be able to decrease the tension on the tilt, and you will have a more enjoyable experience. Because the lighter that feel is while you're moving the head, the better the experience. You don't want to be herking and jerking, around, and that's how fluid heads kind of get. That's how they kind of cheat just a little bit. Is they use massive amounts of fluid tension to create that instead of like mechanical braking systems like our pan head does. And so it's a little less important, but it's still there. The importance is definitely still there. So
yeah, it's a great product. And then a program I didn't know you guys had until recently was your trade-in. It's kind of like a trade-up program. If you have something like a pan head and you want to get a Gen 2, you can get online, fill out a form, and basically say, hey, I have a Gen 1, and what would you give me for it, basically?
Absolutely. And so we take in any Outdoorsman's tripod head that's ever been produced and any Outdoorsman's tripod that's ever been produced. We don't purchase accessories and things like that, mainly because they're still usable with the new generation of products. So you're probably still going to need those anyways if you are upgrading to a Gen 2 or anything. But all of our Outdoorsman's products is fixed price, fixed purchase price from the customer based on their cosmetic grade, basically. Okay. It's basically two prices, A and B. We don't really take anything in that we would consider less than a B grade because we're reselling it and we don't really want our customers to have those. We'll take them off people's hands every once in a while, but really we try to stick with the stuff that is fairly in good condition. And then we send them out, get them all looked at, get a good once over on them, and then sell them back to people. And yes, the trade-in program, we were laughing about it this morning because it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of work, but we have some very interesting interactions with people. And at the end of the day, yes, we are reselling these products. We're not hiding anything from anybody. Yes, we are purchasing them for a lower price and we are reselling them for a higher price. That is just the nature of a buying and selling.
It's kind of how it works.
It's kind of how it works. And so we do get some people every once in a while, especially in the optics category, because we do purchase tons of used optics. And we highly encourage people to take advantage of this program. It's extremely simple. I cannot stress how easy it is to sell something to us and how fast we can get you just completely upgraded. If you've got an old pair of binoculars and you want a new pair, if you're quick with responding to emails, I mean, we can have you a brand new pair of binoculars at a trading credit price in like a week. So it's a very simple process, and it's awesome because I think we're offering a lot of people just a really quick way to upgrade instead of having to sell on forums or eBay. And now eBay's taking all your money and they're going to 1099 everybody now. And don't do that. We're not paying you. We do offer cash, but most of the time it's just trading credit, and it's simple and it's easy. And you get a discount on the new product that you're trying to purchase, and we call it a day. I do want to warn people that could possibly be using this program is you do have to remember that we are reselling these products. This is a trade-in. If you go and look up the Kelley Blue Book value of your car right now for a trade-in, it is nowhere near
It's not
the
great.
fair market value. It's not great because they're factoring in resale, and it's a market.
Mm-hmm.
We have a pretty strict pricing structure that we purchase things at, but we are dealing with especially right now, we're dealing with a fairly volatile optics market, because there are a lot of changes happening in pricing. When something goes on sale, that will affect the used market pricing, and it very fast. It's a small community of of people reselling and purchasing high-end optics, and so it happens very quickly. A great example would be like the EL 1042s from Swarovski. They were, I can't even remember. They dropped them by a substantial amount. They are now $19.99 for a pair of ELs. Prior to that price drop, they were reselling on the used market for about $1,800. Mm-hmm. That's not happening anymore. No one's purchasing used EL 1042s that are 5 years old for $200 below retail. That's just not going to happen. And so, like, basically over one day, that market just all of a sudden just goes boom, and that price drops like crazy, and we start seeing sale prices drop like crazy. And so we do get people every once in a while that are upset with that, but I promise anybody, we are not trying to rip anybody off. We really want to do business with everybody, and we really want to offer a fair value to everything. But there is a trade-in involved. There is a resale involved. But again, the purchasing side, or the selling side of those used optics, is also something that we really think we're offering a great service to people. That is a one-stop shop for very high quality, very well taken care of high-end used optics. And it is constantly flowing in. There's new stuff every single week. There's piles of stuff that we haven't even gotten to process, at any given time. So if you're looking for something and, new retail prices are just not looking attractive to you, that is a great program to take a look at. Even if you don't purchase used from us, purchasing used is a great idea.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
A lot of this high-end stuff really holds its value. And so, it's a give and take. Yes, you are not going to get as much from us as you would just selling it yourself, but also we will buy it from you. Basically, no questions asked. There's certain brands that we will buy. If you send it in, we will give you an offer for it, and you can send it in the mail, and we will either send you a check or give you store credit immediately. No questions asked, no haggling, no meeting people in parking lots, no talking to people on forums, none of that stuff. And, I think there is a service there, and, but it gets a little interesting. It's fun sometimes having conversations with people about, we're not trying to piss anybody off, I promise. But yes, if you're looking for some good used optics, or you're looking to sell some stuff, please contact us. We would love to do business with you.
Yeah. I think it's a great looking program. Man, anything else coming down the pipe we should look at or be looking for?
Definitely.
Yep,
I don't think. Let me see. Can I spill the beans on anything yet?
I say you can spill it on all of it, but
I know I gotta.
Chris might go.
Really pick my words. I gotta really pick my words, especially with some of them. I gotta be really careful. But we are working on a lot of, I think, really cool small things right now that I'll absolutely give you a look into, and it's coming from a focus on adding some accessory value to our product line, and adding some things that can be used with our current products, not necessarily a brand new product in whole, but something that can enhance current products. And my favorite right now is a new panhead handle that we're working on, and it's actually an unlocking hinge design. So normal panhead handle, straight coming out, doesn't move. This one comes out and it actually has a locking collar in the middle that if you unlock, it hinges at a point. And it has two, we're trying to decide on final design right now, but it has a loop at the end of it, or 2 finger loops, that then the handle can hinge back towards the center post or towards the trunnion of the tripod. And instead of having to hold your hand out or even kind of extend those 2 fingers and kind of try to do it like that, you can hold your hand really close to the trunnion. And just from the camming mechanism of that hinge, just by moving your hand up and down, it'll actually move the binocular up and down. And then all you have to do to turn it is just turn your hand.
What?
And yeah, it's a really cool. I used the first prototype on a hunt a couple weeks ago, and I remember like thinking to myself, wow, this is a very small thing that actually has enhanced, my experience using this. And I mean, from just getting uncomfortable kind of holding my hand up and using that handle to just being able to rest it on the trunnion. I mean, cold. It was cold as hell. And, I don't like to have my hands, I like to kind of bundle up. And so it's a cool little product. That is something that we're about 99% on the release of that one.
Yeah.
But there's big stuff. There's bigger stuff coming for sure that
nice.
Can't quite talk about just yet. Yeah, mainly because I'm not confident enough in them to talk about it yet. But
that's all right. Show wise, the basics you're going to be at Sheep Show, Western Hunt Expo.
Yes, and then a new one. Is
it the one in Denver?
Mile High.
Yeah.
Yes, the Mile High event.
It's later.
I'm going to.
It's much later.
It's in April.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're actually extremely excited about that, and I hope a lot of other people are too, because we are coming from it. There it is right there. That is going to be April 5th to the 7th, just outside of Denver.
Nice.
And I will highly encourage people to check this one out. The exhibitor list is stacked. The people that we know are coming, like just actual individuals, is stacked. It is going to be, if it's not packed, which it's their first year, it could go either way. I think it's going to go really well. What I do know is it's going to be an amazing show. And you could have some of the best opportunity you've ever had to speak to some of these companies, because it's not going to be as big as Reno Sheep, and some of the other shows. It's going to be a little more intimate, and it's going to be an amazing opportunity to really get some time with some vendors and manufacturers that you maybe weren't able to have conversations with in the past. And it's April in Denver. I mean, how amazing is that? We're going to be in 3 feet of snow in Reno, and then I get to go have a vacation in Denver in April. So we're very excited about that one. But then our other ones will be Reno Sheep Show. We will be at SCI in Nashville, and we will be at Western Hunter Conservation Expo in Salt Lake City. So just the 3 normal ones, and then that addition of the Mile High event, which we're super excited about.
Awesome. Well, people can go check that out and go see your products. Products, man.
Products.
Running late in the day.
It is.
Oh, man. Yeah. All right, Mark. All right, well, thanks a ton.
Much. Absolutely. I super appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's always a pleasure. Yeah.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Jordan's Toolkit. If you have any questions or suggestions for future episodes, please visit the website, jordan-bud.com, and follow the links to submit an email or voicemail to be played on air. If you're listening on an audio platform, you can also watch this podcast on YouTube via Jordan Bud's personal channel.